my name is John Svec. I'm the defensive coordinator at St. FX University. This will be my 13th season coming up at St. FX, and it'll be my 11th season as defensive coordinator. Done a little bit of work with the provincial team for a few years, did special teams for them, for the Nova Scotia provincial team for a couple years, and was the head coach last year of the U18. So that's my contact info. Enjoy talking football at any time. I like posting stuff about football on social media, and I do a newsletter that I enjoy doing that I send out every week. So that's the Substack there if you want to join that. It's all free, and just like talking football and sharing ideas, and that's always easy to say yes when asked about this. So I'm going to get into the tackling, and like I said, we can go in any direction from there. So over the years, nothing that I'm going to talk about is, I don't think, revolutionary. It's not really anything that I invented or came up with. It's more a combination of things that I've just put together and stolen and worked on and maybe, packaged in a certain way. So that's what I'm going to talk about. But I like talking about sort of the history of it when it comes to tackling. As a player, when we were tackling, I played linebacker in my playing days. And we did a lot of, angle tackling drills. And the main coaching point was always, get your head across the body, bite the football, head across the body. That was the kind of tackling that we would always work on. And when I began coaching, a number of years ago, that was what we talked about, right? Get your head across the body. And that's how we want to make the tackle. That was kind of the main coaching point that we talked about with an angle tackle. And it's just how we did it. And it was, it seemed to work, and it was okay. As we all know, again, nothing revolutionary here. There's been a shift. And one of the main goals was, trying to make tackling safer, trying to reduce concussions. And a lot of that led to some different kinds of tackling. You saw some chest plate kind of tackling and sort of the head on the backside hip tackling that we've been sort of working on over the last little bit. So that's sort of the real evolution for me. The way I look at it is we've gone from sort of head across the body to head on the backside hip. That's kind of the main coaching point, that the way I look at it has changed. Now, within that, as we were developing it, we started changing a lot of other things as well, right? Just changing that coaching point is probably not enough to have success if you're doing every other, with the feet and the hips and the hands and the eyes. If you're doing everything else the same way, it's probably not going to be as effective. So we started, piecing together some ways of tackling with that head on the backside hip that we thought would be effective. And over the years, that's really what we've focused on. And we've evolved, I think, to a place where it's actually a better way to tackle, not just for safety. Obviously, safety is a big part of it, but I think it's better for making a tackle a sure tackle. That's my personal opinion. We've changed our angles. It takes away sort of the cutback. And again, if your two players are working together in a certain way where we each have our head on the near side hip, then it's working together in that vice tackle, and we're having some success. So that's my thought on it, on the evolution. Again, I think a lot of people are going that way. So again, it's nothing we've invented. It's just the way we've sort of been doing it. So that's a little bit of the history, my personal history with it, and where we've evolved. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today, as far as where we've gotten to with that kind of a tackle. And it's, player safety is, like I said, kind of the starting point. That's where we started with it. And it's evolved to be just in my opinion, a better way of doing it, as far as being a sure tackling unit on defense. And then you get into this kind of, I don't know if it's controversial or debatable, or, how do you drill tackling? How much tackling are you doing in practice that's like full tackling, that's competitive tackling, that's taking each other to the ground, again, in a competitive way? How much of that is going on, and how are you making your practice, your drills show up in games, right? The in-game tackles are not always going to be perfect. We want to set up drills that are going to work different situations. And then when you get into a game, it's not always going to be perfect the way you drew it up, but we want to practice it in a way where when we get into the game, we're having success. So how do you do that? Is it different at different levels of play? I'm not sure. Maybe, at our level, we don't do a lot of, full live tackling in practice. We do a lot of tackling work, though. And a lot of the drills I'm going to show you can be done in shorts and a t-shirt. So we're working on tackling. We're teaching the skills of tackling and breaking it down into different segments, but it's not big collisions. It's not having all those collisions in practice. We save that for game day when we're fresh and kind of doing that kind of thing. So again, I don't know if it's controversial or not. I don't know if there's different opinions on, maybe younger players need to tackle more. I'm not, maybe, but maybe not. I'm not sure, because it's at the end of the day, you want a couple of things. You want safety, right? You want your players to be safe, and then you want to have success. You want to tackle on game day. So if the way you're doing it, if no one's getting hurt and you're making every single tackle, then that's great. You should probably keep doing it that way. If either of those is not where you want it to be, maybe there's some shifts we can do to fix wherever we're lacking in that, and maybe not. So that's just some of my thoughts on that. And again, I'm happy to talk about it with you guys and share ideas. And to me, this is the biggest thing. Like, when players are good tacklers, I think that it's because they're confident. They're confident tacklers, right? If we line up and we're right from the first day, we're really flying into each other and we're not having success, then when we get into the game, we're not going to have that confidence, right? So whatever we can do to have our players confident on game day, confident when they're approaching a tackle and getting ready to make a tackle, obviously that's going to help the two things we're talking about, which is keeping everybody safe and being successful, taking that player to the ground with a successful tackle. I talk to coaches sometimes, and it's, my team is just, I don't have an aggressive team this year. They're not aggressive. They're not physical. Well, are they playing with confidence, right? Because that's going to lead to that aggressive and physical style of play, because they're confident in what they're doing, because they've done it so many times. They've seen that picture so many times that they know how to react and how it should look. And that's sort of that confidence piece. That's whether it's tackling or other parts of the game. What I try to do a lot of the time is, I talk about a defensive lineman. There's, 65 yards wide, 110 long, and there's 24 people on the field. But what's their world, right? Their world is that target that they're attacking on the offensive lineman. And if we can shrink their world and just create that picture for them and build confidence in it, I think they're going to play faster and probably be more physical and probably be more aggressive. And I think tackling's the same thing. If you can take all the noise out of it and just focus on a few of the details and make them confident in that, I think that's going to lead to a good tackling team, whether or not, you're beating each other up a lot in practice, because we're confident we can go and do that thing. So that's a little bit of my theory and some of my personal opinions on that. And then we'll get into the details here. So what we're talking, and I hope, again, I'm just looking at my screen here, so hopefully I'm not speaking into the void. I can't see anything else as far as anything. So hopefully everything's going well. So a near hip tackle, that's what we're talking about here. The head's going to remain on the near hip. And then we're just going to break it down into three kind of phases. So you have the approach, you have the point of contact where we're getting into the tackle and making contact, and then we have the finish. So those are the three kind of things we're going to break it down into. And then really there's two different ways. There's a lot of different ways a tackle can show up. I like to break it down into two, that it's usually one of these. Either the ball carrier is coming towards you or the ball carrier is going away from you. Those are really the two ways a tackle is going to show itself. Maybe if you're in the box, if you're in the A gap, it's going to be really tight between which of those it is. But really, he's either coming towards you, he or she is either coming towards you, or that ball carrier is going away from you. So we want to make sure I like to talk about those a little bit differently for a couple of reasons. When we set up our drills, we set them up either, one or the other. And we talk about especially the approach a little bit differently. So when the ball carrier is coming towards me, how do we want to approach it? When they're coming towards you, you want to make sure you're tackling with power. You want to generate some power and have some strength behind it. So we're going to do what I call shimmy footwork. I'm going to show you video. We're going to come to balance and get our feet into, again, I call it a shimmy, where that near foot is a little bit forward so that I can load off of that near foot when I make contact. Again, the ball carrier is coming at me, so I want to come to balance, break down, and do this shimmy with my near foot forward. That, again, I'll show you the video, okay? We want to have nice low hips. Again, this is going to be a powerful, it could be a big collision where the ball carrier is coming at me, I'm coming at them. I want to come to balance and get into that shimmy footwork, and I'll show you a video of how we drill that and how we talk about that. Then what if the ball carrier is going away from me, right? So I can't, that come to balance and shimmy, that's a powerful, slow movement. When the ball carrier is going away from me, now I need to use speed. I have to catch up to the ball carrier. I have to close that ground. So now it's all about what is our angle. And again, I think I'll show this a little bit clearer on the video, but we want to take the air out of that ball carrier. We want to come downhill and track that back hip and call it a banana angle because it's kind of rounded. We don't want to have a sharp angle to where they're going because they're going to cut back. So we want to come downhill and have that banana angle and take the air out because I'm on the backside hip now of that ball carrier. We want to eliminate the cutback by coming downhill. And again, I'll show you that on the video. So one of two things, the ball carrier is coming towards me or the ball carrier is going away from me. These are the two approaches that we drill that we'll talk about when we get to the video. Then the point of contact. So again, there's a bunch of different ways this tackle could kind of go down. There's different names and different things you can drill. I've kind of chosen 3 here to focus on. These are sort of the 3 main ones that we might talk about and drill. So the near pec, again, and a lot of this is stolen from, the Seahawks tackling video from a few years ago. They used this language, so we just stole it. But now we're in the box. We're coming off a block. And again, maybe in the A gap or B gap, we're in close quarters, and we get that sort of near pec tackle. That's the point of contact. So like one way we'll drill it. Then there's the thigh board tackles. Now we're maybe in a little more space. And now our point of contact's a little bit lower. We're going for kind of the thigh boards, and we'll talk about that. And then the gator roll, again, usually an open field, kind of an alley tackle, where we're going to make that contact and squeeze and roll and pull the ball carrier towards us and roll. And that's the finish on that. So those are 3 different, points of contact and types of tackles that might show up. But they all have, a few things in common. We always want to have our eyes up. Clearly we don't want to be looking at the ground. We want to have our eyes up for 2 main reasons. One is it's safer, right? We want to be safe. We don't want to give the top of our head. But the other thing is we want to see what we're hitting. So we want to be able to see the ball carrier. So we have our eyes up. Again, our near foot's ideally going to be planted in the ground. And again, that's easy to talk about. It's easy to practice. It's not always going to work out that way in the game. But if they understand it, I think it's a good starting point and a good thought process that I'll show you on video that, again, doesn't always work out that way, especially when the ball carrier is going away from us, but it's something to work on. We want to make contact with the shoulder, so we're not making contact with the head. We're not arm tackling. We want to make contact with the shoulder, and we want to fire our hips through the tackle on each one when we're making contact. And I'll show you some drills that we do to work on that. And then the finish, we want to have a good wrap. We want to wrap and grab cloth and, get a hold of that ball carrier. We want to run our feet. The gator roll, obviously we're rolling now, but when we can run the feet on the near pec or the thigh board tackle, we want to do that. We want to run the feet, secure the tackle, and again, have that power generated going through it. So that's the finish, and we'll show drills on all of this. And then those 2 things coming together create, what I call, what everybody calls a vice tackle. So a vice tackle would just be, we have 2 defenders, we have a ball carrier, and for one of those defenders, the ball carrier is coming towards them, and for the other defender, the ball carrier is going away from them, and those 2 things happening at the same time create a vice tackle. And when it works out great, it looks really great. The ball carrier has nowhere to go. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're hip to hip by the end so they can't just come between you and go upfield. But typically, a ball carrier in space, when we have 2 defenders, those 2 things that we're talking about come together to create a vice tackle. And sometimes a vice tackle happens between you and the sideline, right? So sometimes that ball carrier is there and you're using the sideline as your teammate and you're vicing it with the sideline. So we talk about that too. So that's kind of the initial part of it. I'm going to get into the video. Any questions here, guys, on what I've gone through? And again, hopefully you guys could see that, could hear me. Is everything good? Could I get an affirmation that you guys? Good.
It's all good. It's all good, Coach.
Questions, guys? Any questions on that? Thoughts? Debates? Happy to pause here for a sec if anyone wants to pop in. Nothing yet. Okay, we'll get to the video and maybe some stuff will come up. So again, hopefully you guys can see that. The video's up now. So yeah, I'm going to take you through, a number of drills that we do. We do these in season. We do these in the off season. Sometimes you're going to see us in shorts and a t-shirt like this clip here. Sometimes we're on the field in full gear. There are a couple pieces of equipment, kind of toys that we use that you may or may not have in your program. I think there's almost always an alternative you can use to what I'm showing. The one thing is we do use kind of crash mats. So like a high jump mat or anything you can fall on especially when we're in the gym or even on the field when we want to kind of lessen the blow going to the ground. That is one thing. We do have some donuts and stuff like that, but you can usually, again, replace that with something else that you have laying around. But here's sort of a progression that we do. We like to do these things in circuit format. So we'll pick, 4 or 5 of these drills. We'll divide the group into 5, smaller groups, and we'll go through a circuit. So they're doing each one of these drills. The coach stays and the players rotate, and they're doing all of these drills at once and going through a full, circuit training of tackling. We do it with all our players, right? We don't just do it with defensive players. We do it with offensive players. We do it with special teams players. You never know when someone's going to have to make a tackle in a game, whether it's on a special team or on a turnover. So we want to make sure everyone on our team is getting this kind of training and these drills going. So what we're going to work on first is, a little bit of a progression where the ball carrier is coming towards us. So all of these first few clips, the ball carrier is coming towards us, and that's the thought process, and our players know that's what we're drilling, and we're going to go through a bit of a progression. So the first thing is just working that shimmy footwork that I talked about. So we're just here in the gym. I know Zoom gets a little choppy. I don't know about this. I'll try to slow it down. So this is the shimmy footwork that we're talking about. Okay, so this is the last couple steps before the tackle. We're shimmying into the tackle. And ideally, again, that lead foot is planted in the ground when I'm about to make contact. This player is going to make contact with their right shoulder. Their eyes are up. Okay, their head is to the side of the ball carrier, and they're just getting in position to make the tackle without making the tackle in this drill. We're just working the shimmy. We're just working the footwork and the approach. So they shimmy in, and the drill is finished when they get to that great tackling position, and the coach has eyes on it, making sure that the hips are low, that lead foot is forward, the head's out of contact, and the eyes are up, and that shoulder is ready to make contact, right? So we're just rolling through it, quick rotation, next guy up, shimmy into it, getting to that same finished position. Okay, eyes up, hips low, shoulder ready for contact, and that's all we're working here. So working that shimmy. So obviously you could be in pads, you could be in shorts and a t-shirt like this. We're not making contact. We're just working on that shimmy footwork, getting used to it. Now working the other side. Okay, again, eyes up, near foot forward, that shimmy to that finished position. That's the freeze, okay? That's the first part of the progression. Then we just want to make it dynamic. So whatever you want to do, you can come off the block, work a little agility drill. We just don't want it to always start in that stagnant position, because usually in a game, you've been doing something else. You've been in pass coverage or coming off a block before making that tackle. So we want to make the players be dynamic. So here we're just going to sprint forward and then come to balance and get into a shimmy. And again, we do it a lot of different ways, coming off blocks, like I said, and all that kind of stuff. But here we're just going to sprint forward, come to balance, shimmy into the tackle, and there's that same finished position that we're going to end on, near foot forward, eyes up, hips low, shoulder ready for contact. That's the finished position. The coach blows a whistle or says release, next player up. Okay, same thing here. Now we're just going to add a bit of the contact piece just on air. So we're going to shimmy into this tackle on this cone where there's nobody there, and then we're going to fire our hips, and we're going to simulate a tackle just on air. So as we shimmy into this, we've just simulating that tackle where, again, you're going to see this kind of posture quite a bit here, where we load off that near foot, we fire our hips forward. When we're doing it on air or doing it on a light bag, we like to finish with our eyes to the sky. And that coaching point is just because it helps us fire our hips through, right? I think a lot of young players, you say fire your hips. They don't quite know what that means. Okay, so to bring the eyes to the sky, it naturally kind of brings your hips forward, and it just is training their bodies to do that. When you actually make a tackle in a game, you're never going to actually get to this posture, but we're training our bodies to fire off the foot and the hips at the same time and the arms to generate that power. So now when a body's in front of us, all we're doing is taking them to the ground and making that tackle. But on air, this is how we like it to look. Again, fire off that leg, hips through, eyes up. We do a double uppercut with our arms when we're on air, and that's our finished position for this part of the drill. So again, working that shimmy, and we just added in that firing of the hips, eyes to the sky, okay, firing the hips through. Okay, now we've added a bag to it. Ball carrier is still coming towards us. We're going to shimmy into this, and now we're going to do what we just did on air, but we've just added a nice light step-over bag. So it's a light bag. It's easy to lift. And again, we're probably never going to tackle anyone that's this light, but we're doing this to train our bodies to fire our hips on contact. So we're going to shimmy into this. We're going to start with just hot feet just to get moving. And then on the second go, we're going to shimmy our hips into this. And again, when we make contact, okay, that's kind of the chain we're looking for. Again, eyes to the sky. Okay, we've brought our hips through. We fired off that near foot. Okay, fired up, eyes to the sky. And we brought our hips. Now here you see, Gregor McKellar playing CFL offensive lineman. Okay, and he actually doesn't quite bring his hips through here. You see how his hips are still way behind him versus this player here who's brought the hips forward and generated that power. This is what we're looking for here. And this drill is just to train that. Eyes to the sky, hips through, firing off that near leg. And it should all happen at once. We don't want to grab the bag, then fire the hips. We want to explode through the bag, fire the hips at the same time. We make contact and bring our arms, boom, all the way through. Here again, we don't get those hips into it. So we didn't have success on that rep. Okay, we want to bring the hips through and finish it. Next, same thing. We just make it a little more dynamic now. Have them run up to it, come to balance, shimmy into it, and fire. Bring the hips through, eyes to the sky. Okay, really exaggerate with that light bag. Exaggerate that movement, train our bodies. So when a real person's in front of us, we have that chain of power, kind of ready. Same thing there. Okay, fire through. It's the same drill. Same thing here, I think. Come to balance, shimmy into it, and fire. Fire the hips, eyes to the sky. Those are kind of our coaching points. Okay, now we're out on the field. It's the same drill. Okay, this is Gordon White here playing for the Ticats now. We've just set up a little bit of agility just to get them moving. I like to have the ball carrier come towards them because we're working on a ball carrier coming towards us. So once we finish the agility piece, I give a second go call. The bag carrier comes forward, and the tackler should shimmy into it. And again, finish with that same chain of power. We get a good look at it here. We shimmy into it, okay? And that's kind of what we're looking for with the chain of power. We fired off that near leg. We've brought our hips through. We bring our eyes to the sky just to exaggerate with this bag. The feet, okay, we shimmy into the tackle, but once we make contact, the feet run. We don't keep shimmying through the tackle. So we shimmy into the tackle, and then now we run our feet. Okay, as soon as we come off this foot to make contact, now our feet are running. We're running our feet. Okay, and this drill is training that again, where we shimmy into it just for power, but now we're running our feet and finishing the rep. Tackler becomes a ball carrier, we go again. So just a little bit of agility, whatever you want to do, shimmy into it, and again, fire off that near foot, hips through, same kind of stuff we've been saying. That's what we're talking about. Now, eventually, we put a body in front of them. Okay, so now we have a teammate holding a bag, and everything's going to be the same. Obviously, we're not going to lift this teammate up into the sky by putting our hips through, but if we've trained our bodies properly, that chain is still going to fire. So we've done some agility with hot feet, then we shimmy into it, and then we fire. You see the power generated. We still attempt to fire the hips. Okay, now we're kind of bringing that load, contact with the shoulder, okay, eyes up, head on the near hip, and now we go from a shimmy to a running of the feet when we make contact. Shimmy into it, run the feet, and now we have a big body there that we're moving. So we've trained our bodies. Now we're into a teammate. Same thing with a sled. We can do it onto the sled where we're going to shimmy into it. Again, we want to load. That's blurry. We want to load off that near foot. Okay, eyes up, head to the side, run our feet. Now we're just adding some weight behind it so they can feel, if you don't fire your hips into the sled, it's going to be harder to move it. So we add a blocker here. We add certain things. Okay, shimmy into it, fire off that near leg, eyes up. Okay, you want to have your hips low, especially the tall guys. Hips low to generate power. Getting into it. Here we are into the sled again. Shimmy, shimmy. Okay, that near foot is firing. Eyes up, running the feet, okay, into the sled. If you don't have a sled, again, a teammate with a bag or without a bag is just a good way to put some weight behind it. This is all the same. Okay, shimmy into it, run the feet. Okay, we like to take, now the finish, we got to take someone to the ground. Again, we want to do it in a controlled way. So we have these crash mats before, again, a high jump mat at your school or in your program, or if you can set up a bunch of step overs that make a bit of a landing point, anything will kind of work here. The key for us is I'd like the offensive player, the player simulating the ball carrier, to be a little more off the bag so we can get that second foot into the ground. That's a big key here. When we shimmy into it, we want to get that second foot into the ground. So here we're going to take, now we can work a little more of we were kind of working a near pec tackle earlier. Now it's a little bit more of a thigh board tackle. We can really work the wrap and the squeeze now. And again, we want to run our feet. I like this drill over here a little more because he's a little farther away from the bag. and we're going to run our feet into it. But we'll watch Hunter here. He's just going to shimmy into it. Again, everything's the same. It's just one step. But there's the near foot in the ground. His eyes are up. He's going to fire his hips. But now he can wrap and squeeze, grab the back of the thighs and squeeze, okay, and really take him to the ground and lift. Again, we really would like to get that second foot into the ground in this drill so that we're firing off this one, but we're running the feet with the second one. They're good. Okay, so we want enough space to run. I don't know if we get it here. Not as good a rep, okay? That near foot's not in the ground. We want to run our feet at least by one step to simulate that running of the feet and finishing to the ground. A couple more here. Okay, we're other side. Okay, not bad here. Again, we want to shimmy into it, squeeze the back of the thigh, get that second foot into the ground for this drill, and then finish by pulling, ending up on top of our teammate. Then we make it more dynamic. We add a blocker, or we do some agility, or we get them running into it just so it's not so comfortable. Still, we want to come to balance, okay, and finish on the tackle. So we're coming downhill, getting into the balance. Same thing. We want, at the end of the day, after all that movement, we still want to get to that posture, right? Near foot in the ground, contact with the shoulder, eyes up. Now we can squeeze the thighs, get that second foot in the ground. Okay, right there, good. Run the feet, finish. Let's see how we're doing over here. Okay, on this side, come to balance, can't quite see it. Not bad. We don't really want to gather. We don't want to pause. We want to kind of explode into it, right? So we're a little bit slower there to pause, but not too bad. Same thing here. Come to balance, shimmy into it. Okay, if you can see it, I hope it's not too blurry for you. Shimmy into it, contact, squeeze, wrap, get that second foot in the ground, finish on the ground. Okay, good. Now we've added a blocker, so we want to beat a block with speed, come to balance. Okay, so we're taking each other to the ground. We're just doing it in a controlled way. Okay, so that's sort of our progression for ball carrier coming towards me. And now we'll talk about a progression of ball carrier going away from me, and then we'll get into some vice tackling. So now the ball carrier is going away from us. So there's some subtle things to this angle that are really important. So the first thing we're going to work is just that banana angle. So we just set up sort of a square here. I know it's a little blurry. We've added this next cone, which is really important. So it's a 45-degree angle. And what the instinct is to go meet them there, right? Meet the ball carrier there. But again, if we just take that angle, this ball carrier is just going to cut back and we've missed the tackle. So instead, we want to initially come downhill as this player is going here. We want to come downhill, take the air out, and finish on the back hip with more of that banana style angle. And that's all we're working here. So this ball carrier is just running on a 45, and this tackler is just coming downhill, taking the air out, and finishing with just, we call it a whiz. So it's a non-contact kind of thing. Again, though, ideally in a perfect world, it's that near foot, and you see that same chain of that foot firing, the hips going through, the eyes to the sky, the double uppercut that we just did when the ball carrier was coming towards us. It doesn't always work out that way. We don't want players counting their steps just to make sure they finish that way. But once it becomes second nature, you just kind of, the body just works where that foot's going to be in the ground, and that's how you're generating that power. Okay, we have offensive linemen doing it too. Okay, everybody's tackling, so we're coming downhill. Want to come off the back hip and go. This is not a great rep, this next one coming up. You see this cone's there for a reason to come downhill here. This player goes over the cone and goes too flat. That's not what we want. Okay, that ball carrier is going to cut back. Okay, we want to come downhill and, again, take the air out. So he has to adjust to get around him just to finish the drill. So that's all we're working here is that angle. Down is a good rep. Okay, downhill, take the air out, come off the back hip. Again, firing off that near leg, hips, eyes, arms, okay, for a good little finish on air. Here just from another angle. Same thing, coming downhill. That's the banana angle we're talking about when the ball carrier is going away from us. So now we're going to set up this same drill, and we tell the players, okay, here we're working ball carrier come towards us. Okay, let's work ball carrier going away from us. And this is just the finish. This is the last couple steps. We've already done our banana angle. So we go through our agility, and now instead of shimmying into the tackle, we're going to run through the tackle because he's going away from us. So now on the second go, the bag carrier is just going to simulate, going away, and now we're going to run our feet. You're not going to see a shimmy now. You're going to see us running the feet. But again, there's that same chain of power. Near foot, hips, eyes to the sky. Okay, it looks exactly the same, just now we're running our feet. So the footwork is different. And we're running because he's going away from us. Okay, here's another one, doing some agility. Downhill, just running through it. Run through the tackle. Fire off. There's that chain of power. Good look at it there, eyes to the sky. Okay, ball carrier going away from us. Just working our hips, working our footwork, working the approach to this tackle. Downhill, boom. Okay. Now we want to add a blocker to it, make it a little more dynamic so we don't know which way the ball carrier is going. So we beat a block, we stack the block, ball carrier is going one way or the other. We come downhill. Okay, again, in a perfect world, we're going to finish off that near leg, fire the hips, just make the tackle staying up for now. Okay, same thing. They don't know. I'm pointing the direction. They don't know which way it's going. So we beat the block with speed. Now we're going to come downhill. Again, make that tackle. We like to use our shoulder, fire through it. Okay, a little bit more of a dynamic drill. Same thing, one more here. Beat the block, come downhill, fire. Say near foot, hips, eyes. Those are really the main coaching points that I'm going through. Now we want to make it a little more game-like. So we bring the donuts out. Again, you can use a tall bag. You can use a person. You can use a player here. We're going to land on the crash mats. And you're going to see us do it with D linemen. You're going to see us do it with linebackers and DBs. The start of the drill is position specific. So here's a D lineman. We're just going to get a first step. We're simulating that it's been a screen pass. And now we're going to screen down the line, make a back hip tackle. Now we're going to gator roll because we're going on to crash mats for the finish. So we're just going to simulate that first step. Now the ball carrier is going away. Again, we're going to take that banana angle. We're going to contact with the near shoulder. Now we're going to gator roll, okay, and finish the rep by rolling. When we gator roll, we want to bring the ball carrier towards us. So we squeeze, bring them towards us, and roll. And that's the finish. So here's a D lineman just coming down the line, working the gator roll finish, taking the donut to the ground. You could do it with a player. You could do it with whatever you want. Same thing, coming downhill. We still ideally would like to fire off that near foot. It doesn't always happen. But we definitely want our head out, too much head in the contact. I'd say to this player, okay, get your head to the side. Don't practice that way. We want contact with the shoulder. And we want to wrap, and we want to gator roll. Okay, finish it off. Same thing, one more D lineman here, coming down the line. Okay, pretty good. You still see the loading of the hips, right? The firing off that near foot. And now it's a gator roll situation that we're working on. One more D lineman. Okay, we still want to fire through it. Okay, here's the DBs. So they're going to backpedal. They're going to come forward like it was a screen pass again or some kind of run where they're going to redirect. There's a lot more space now. They still want to take that back hill banana alley tackle angle. Okay, and they want to finish through, gator roll onto the bag. Now it's more of a DB position specific kind of thing where they're going to beat a block again, come downhill, take the air out. Still a near hip, still off that near foot. Eyes up, gator roll, finish, just safely on a mat. But it's a little more dynamic, and they're really going to the ground and really feeling those tackles. Now it's a linebacker, so they're just going to do a linebacker pass, a zone drop. Then they're going to come up like the ball was thrown under or something like that, and they're going to finish the tackle. Okay, coming downhill, same back hip, fire through, gator roll on the mats. Coming to the other side, linebacker pass drop, coming downhill, firing. Now they can really fire through that bag and work their roll. So it's a progression, right? We've done it kind of walking, then running, and going from there. So now this is one of my favorite drills. This is just a vice drill. Okay, so I'll kind of walk you guys through it as we're going here. So this is the ball carrier, and these are the two defenders. So it's a two-go drill. So on the first go, I'm just going to get these defenders kind of moving forward a little bit. The second go will happen really quickly. And on the second go, the ball carrier is just going to go on a 45-degree angle, and he's going to go in one way or the other. He's going to step this way, or he's going to step this way. If the ball carrier steps this way as I'm approaching, all of a sudden I'm the front hip of a vice. I'm getting ball coming to me, so I'm going to sink my hips. I'm going to come to balance. I'm going to shimmy. I'm going to whiz off the near hip. If he steps this way for this player, now the ball carrier is going away from me. So I'm going to get into my banana angle, and I'm going to run through. And we want to make sure, obviously, the defenders don't run into each other as we're doing this drill. So here's a pretty good rep where we'll kind of watch it in slow motion. The first go, the ball carriers are coming. Now, as soon as that ball carrier goes this way, you see the defender sink his hips and get into that shimmy, get ready for a tackle. And this defender is going to work that back hip and get ready for the back hip. So he becomes a front hip player. He becomes a back hip player, and they work together to create a vice. So initially, they don't know who is who. But on the second go, they see where the ball carrier is going, and now they get into their role. Okay, really good. And we don't run into each other. You can make this as dynamic as you want. You can open up the space. You can move this ball carrier to different spots. There's a lot of different ways we do it, but this is just a good, clean look at. Now if he were to cut back, if he took one step this way and cut back, now he's ball carrier coming towards him, so he would sink his hips and shimmy. And this player, he's not going to be able to shimmy that far and catch him. So now he would get into a run and become the back hip player. So sometimes it changes as the play goes on. but you just need to keep your relationship to that hip. You know, if it's either coming towards you or away from you, and you want to keep that leverage to use your teammate. Okay, now it's a little more dynamic. Okay, so now we have 6 cones lined up here, 6 cones, 3 and 3. These 2 players are defenders, and this is a ball carrier. So on the go call, these 2 players are going to go around 2 of the cones, and the ball carrier is going to go around 1 of the cones. And as they turn around and go around the cones, all of a sudden they're into a vice drill. So now they're working together with their teammate. Again, either the ball carrier is coming towards them or away, and they're going to serve their role. So now this player's, the ball's coming this way, so he's going to sink into a shimmy for power, and this player's going to back hit banana angle, and they're going to work together. There's your shimmy, okay, near shoulder, near foot. Here's your banana angle coming downhill, and they're both going to just whiz off the appropriate hip. Okay, right there, boom. The thing we added to this that I like, we're physically on the field near the sidelines here. So there's one other way that it could show up. If this player goes around this cone, now the near player is going to work together with the sideline. So now it's a sideline vice, and the backside player is just going to take an angle back to the end zone in case the tackle is missed. So again, we're going to have the same setup, but now we find ourselves, the sideline is the front hip. That's where the ball carrier is going towards. And now I'm going to banana tackle and use the sideline to vice this player. And this player is going to put his foot in the ground, and he's going to go to a touchdown kind of angle here. So he's a touchdown saving tackle, and now we're vicing with the sideline. So a nice little setup there. We added this a little while ago. I do like it as a progression from this drill. Same thing here. We're going to get a sideline. Again, we got the lineman in there. So this player is working a vice with the sideline, and this player now says, okay, I'm not involved in the vice, but let's take an angle here to not give up a touchdown in case that tackle is missed. I'm going to take an angle of pursuit, okay, down the field. Okay, couple game clips I have of this showing up. Again, they're not always perfect when you get into the game, but I have a couple decent ones here that you can sort of see. So here we're going to let this develop for a second. Okay, and here you see a vice developing. Okay, this is going to be the front hip player, and this is going to be the back hip player working the banana angle. So now it's more of a game situation. We'll focus in on this player here. He does a great job of, it looks exactly like our drill, where he's going to come to balance. He's going to shimmy. Okay, load off that near leg. His head is out of the contact. Okay, really good look, eyes up, and he finishes on the tackle. Okay, and there's nowhere for the ball carrier to go because our back hip vice player is using his banana angle. He doesn't end up getting quite in the tackle because the tackle's already made. But we get a really good look here at that front hip, come to balance, shimmy. Okay, fire into that tackle, make the play. Okay, so not too bad as far as our look here. Okay, another one here. It's just going to show up on the screen as we're almost finished the rep here. The play bounces. And again, you're going to see that near foot, okay, in the ground. Like to see the eyes up. Okay, with that same kind of shimmy for power. And then the back hip player is coming, going to show up late. A back hip pursuit. So we have front hip, back hip. Again, things are pretty good. Contact is with the shoulder. Rather see the eyes up. But a decent look at it. Here, we don't get a great look at this one. We see it just at the tail end. It's a very good gator roll. It's kind of blurry because the film's moving, but here we go. Okay, he's kind of vicing with the sidelines. And if you can see this here, I know it's a little blurry. You're going to get a really good open field, just gator roll tackle. It looks exactly like when we had the donuts out. And this player is broken on the ball. He's using his near shoulder. He's wrapping. He's pulling towards himself. And there's that gator roll to kind of finish it off. So a decent little look there. Here we go again. So this is a draw play. So it's 2nd and 10. So our backers are dropping off. We're going to see the draw and retrace. You're going to see number 30 with a near pec tackle. We're probably a little high on contact here, but there's the come to balance. There's the shimmy. Okay, ball carrier's coming towards me, so I'm going to shimmy into it. Okay, fire off that near foot. Like to run the feet a little more. Then my teammate's going to come kind of clean it up, but a decent look at a near pec. Again, contact point's probably a little high, but we get the result. And then we see a sideline vice here. So we see the ball coming to the near sideline. Once we get going here. Okay, so now I'm here, and now I'm working together with the sideline. So this ball carrier, we're vicing with the sideline, so I'm going to make sure I stay on that near hip. I don't allow a cutback. Okay, we're going to make the tackle, but it's the sideline I'm working together with to finish off this play. They want to wrap, want to bring them down. Okay, good luck. And I think this is my last one. That's the top. Okay, guys, that's most of what I have as far as materials. Again, really happy to where you guys are here. Happy to talk, veer this in any direction that you guys want. If you have some questions on some other things that you'd like to talk about, I'm happy to talk on any sort of topic that you guys have been thinking about. Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
As far as contact in practice off season, how much do you ever limiting contact with guys on guys? Like, do you just avoid going to ground? Do you just take them like a thud type contact, or you just try and go mostly on bag as much as you possibly can?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for us, we have 3 practice tempos. So that's kind of how we talk about it. So one would be whiz. So whiz means that we're just whizzing by the ball carrier and not making any contact, just working our angles. The other would be, we call it thud. So thud, like we did inside run today, that was like a thud period. So at the end of the drill, everyone should be up. No one should be on the ground. But when we're meeting that ball carrier, we are going to thud up on them with our shoulders. So there's a bit of a contact there where we want good head position and everything, where we thud and run the feet, and then there's the whistle. And then we have full. So full live is when we would tackle to the ground in sort of a competitive way. When it comes to our competitive stuff, we go live very rarely. So for us, we would go live maybe during a bye week. During the season, we'd maybe have like a live scrimmage where we would go live, mostly with probably the players that are maybe not dressing right now, that are fighting for a dress roster spot. We're going to go live for a scrimmage at the end of our spring camp. So next weekend, we're planning to go live for a bit of a scrimmage type situation. And really throughout the course of the year, those would be, the 2 or 3 times that we would go live. We would go thud, fairly regularly. Maybe once a week, we would go thud, where we're thudding up and staying up and no one's on the ground. And then we go whiz quite a bit as well. When it comes to drilling, so that's in a competitive, offense versus defense, how physical are we being that, 2 or 3 times a year, we're going live. When it comes to, drilling, the drills we're doing, that stuff I've shown tonight is kind of what we do. So we don't really line up linebackers on, like when I was a player and we were in Indy, it was like, okay, that linebacker's the ball carrier, this linebacker's on defense. Let's make a deal, pick a hole, go full. We don't do that. When we're drilling, tackling, it's usually on bags, maybe thud at the most, like the one rep you saw where we're thudding on the bag holder, usually tackling donuts, but we will tackle probably every day. We'll probably do tackling drills every day. If at least 2 times a week out of our 3 practices, we'll do a circuit or drills tackling. So we're tackling every day. We're just very rarely going live in a competitive situation. Yeah, Coach.
Hi, Coach. Just wondering, in terms of how do you implement takeaway creation within your tackling circuit? Is that the next progression, I would assume?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. We tend to, sometimes we kind of talk about it separately. Maybe we shouldn't always. We would do okay, today we're going to do a tackling circuit, and then we would do a turnover circuit, a takeaway circuit. So it's going to be similar. We're going to do a drill where maybe the first player in the vice has thudded up and the next player in the vice is taking the ball away. We'll also do things where the one player securing the tackle and taking the ball away. We do scoop and score things. That's kind of when we like to work in our cut block defend. So a cut block defend with maybe a scoop and score to make sure we're getting reps on defending a cut block, and obviously your tips and interception things as well. But yeah, we like to do at least one kind of tackling circuit throughout the week, and then we'd probably do another takeaway turnover circuit separately, but some of the same principles are in there. But that's a great question. And for me, it's, some of those drills are I don't know, we get good tempo because we make them competitive. Sometimes I think it's more about just the mindset of taking the ball away. Do you know what I mean? Rather than what do you gain, in those drills, yeah, you're gaining the techniques and those things, but I really think it's more about the mindset of going for the ball. And that's why we like to dedicate time to it. It's, everyone knows kind of how to rake and how to punch, and their bodies know how to do it. But let's get that mindset of, this is what we want to do. This is what we're going to work on and talk about and celebrate. That's kind of why I think we dedicate so much time to it, but it's definitely something we work on as well, sort of separately from tackling.
Awesome. Thank you.
And again, guys, if you guys want to talk with, go ahead, Coach Gallant.
What's an eye opener for me, and maybe it's something you could help with the players, especially at a high school level, and seeing your practices. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people on this call would get the flack that we do is, they don't see it as valuable. And, even at your level, you're doing it every practice and simulate it. And you almost get the eye rolls from it. Why are we doing this every week? And it's, I almost would like to have your presentation, in that first week of training camp in the fall to say, this is what they do at the AUS level. Is there any suggestions outside of that you would say that we could help with our kids that are trying to, potentially go to the next level or get over that we're not hitting, it's not working sort of thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I don't think there's anything more important that we do than this. Like, I'd rather have one play call and be a good and work on tackling every day than be super dynamic and have all these exotic blitzes and things and not know how to tackle, and the angles especially, right? So a couple things, one thought is, we do so much of it that I do like to sort of, again, this day's kids, and we could talk about this forever. It's like, do you just drill it in, or do you kind of, so we would like maybe change the first part of the drill a little bit to make it a little more fresh. If we're doing this every day, the finish is the same. We're working the same thing, but maybe we'll do the agility a little different before the tackle, or we'll add in a different kind of blocker, do something to kind of keep it fresh as far as that goes. But yes, I hear you. And it does get repetitive as far as the finish. But again, I don't think there's anything more important than, especially the angles, like the approach part of it, the vice aspect of it. I really don't think there's anything more important than this. And if you're doing a lot of this kind of stuff, however it fits into your system, in my opinion, that's going to lead to success. So yeah, it's a valid point. I'd love to hear from anyone else in the group. But you're kind of saying like doing it this way versus like getting really, really competitive and taking each other. Is that what you're kind of saying versus being physical with it?
Because you even say it, and you saying it, eyes in the sky. That's part of safe tackle. And we always get kids rolling their eyes about safe tackle, but hearing you say it, defensive coordinator, long-term defensive coordinator, that was one of the first things out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
so
yeah, 100%.
It's to get these kids understanding that when you get through these 5 or 6 years between Bantam and high school, the expectation is you're doing that no matter what, and at that your level sort of thing. So yeah, it's just good hearing you say it, because sometimes it's just hard for us.
Yeah. No, I get, and I bet you if we were listening, at any level, it's the same thing. You got to work on the fundamentals, and I think it's always kind of, with that one, because I'm always repeating that coaching point too. And I think it's important. Anytime you're doing any kind of drill, like letting the guys know what you're drilling. So I always remind the guys, like I said here, like, you're never going to tackle someone this light. You're never going to tackle someone as light as this step over bag. But the reason we're doing this is to train our bodies so that when we're at the same time that foot's in the ground, our hips are firing, our arms are firing, and the eyes to the sky is to exaggerate that, to train your body. So when you're taking on that ball carrier, your body knows what to do. So maybe a little bit of that, of just, again, the kids these days, right? It's, why are we doing this drill? Before they ask, I just make sure this is the part of the game we're simulating. This is why we're doing this. We're training our body so that when we're taking on, a 200-pound ball carrier, we might not end up with our eyes to the sky, but our hips are going to know to fire because I've done this drill and my body's now trained to do that. So maybe a little bit of why are we doing this drill right now this way might help. But I'm happy to hear anyone else's suggestions on that. It's a great point and something I think we all deal with. This is great. And I know I'm last, and I know you guys have been probably a little fried doing this stuff all weekend, but if someone wants to talk about anything, quads adjustments or, anything else, I'm happy to chat. I know I'm slated for a good chunk here, but it's up to you guys how you want to steer this from this point forward. Coach Douthright, got some.
Hi, yeah, I'm just curious. I know we've been talking a lot about your level, but at under 14 level, how much live tackling per week should they do? Like, should it be once a week? Yeah. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start by saying I'm probably not the most qualified to answer that because I haven't coached at that level as much. But I will say that I've coached U18s for a while. I think logically, the logic is you'd say they're younger, so we should go live a lot more in practice. I honestly am not 100% sure if that's right or not. I just don't know. I don't know. Because maybe doing this kind of stuff more might help in the game too, right? Because again, they'll be confident. They'll know exactly what their body position should be. They're comfortable in it. They're having fun with it. Maybe that will lead to a great tackling and a safe tackling team. Or maybe there needs to be a little more live tackling just because they're not as developed. In my opinion, I think this kind of stuff is where you should start, right? At the start of the year with a new player, with new people. I think this is a great way to start. I would do a lot. If I was tomorrow coaching one of my kids' teams, I would do a lot of this stuff before doing any kind of live competitive tackling personally. Just because, again, that's how we're going to train our body. And then even when I added a body in there, it would be really controlled in a really controlled way. And then eventually more and more dynamic until you're in a game situation. So I would start with this stuff and then get comfortable and then get to the live stuff. So again, I don't want to speak on it too much because I'm not, but my only point is like, maybe they don't need as much as we think they do, or maybe they do. I don't quite know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Coach Gilcash.
With the guys coming, like taking on a blocker when you're talking about like ball carrier coming to you directly or going towards the ball carrier, is there any preference on taking on the blocker with winning with speed or kind of like the shock and stack type methods?
No, great question. I spent a lot of time talking with my team on this. The rule of thumb for me is how far are we away from the ball carrier? So when I'm meeting that blocker, how far is that battle happening from the ball carrier? And I think we all probably do this on, if you think kickoff, we all, I don't maybe shouldn't say all of it, but a lot of people talk about, when I take on that first wave I'm covering a kick, I take on that first wave of blockers, I'm going to avoid to the back hip, right? I'm going to avoid with speed. But then I get downfield and I take on that blocker that's close to the ball carrier. Now I'm going to strike. So I think it's the same thing on defense. If I'm really far away, if I'm a DB and I'm taking on a receiver and the ball carriers, even if he or she is coming towards me, they're really far away. I think I'm safe there to win with speed because I have time to stack and get back into my lane, into my leverage because the ball carrier is so far away. But if the ball carrier is really close to us as I'm meeting that blocker, now I have to take them on with power because I'm going to get washed if I try to win with speed and the ball carrier is right there. So and there's no perfect answer, but I think the farther away you are from the ball carrier, the more you should try to win with speed. And the closer you are to the ball carrier, you probably have to take on that block because of that proximity. That's my rule of thumb. And that's what I really try to explain to the guys, my players, is that kind of dynamic. And then sometimes, you're in a game and they say, Coach, I thought I was far enough away. And at least they have that mindset. I thought I was far enough away I could win with speed. And they try, at least they can talk about it that way and there's a plan there. That's how I like to talk about that. And it's a great point. And I always say, we probably take on more blocks than we have to, right? If I'm a DB and they're running a hitch screen and they're a little bit out of sync and the ball carries way away from me, I probably don't have to take on that block. I can probably win with speed because receivers aren't always the best blockers. Some are great, but some aren't. So winning with speed is probably good there. And we tend to take those on and try to get it in with that player, and we don't need to. So that's usually the way I lean when I'm talking to guys. Like, listen, you probably didn't have to take that block on, but that's my rule of thumb.